Well, good morning and welcome to Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. We're on the air on another exciting Friday edition. Let's roll that open in 3, 2, 1. Here we go, folks.
It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want.
And welcome to a Friday edition in Australia and North America. It's Thursday night, but we're talking Baseball Australia Live right here on Facebook. And I'm going to be joined right now. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going right to the bullpen. I'm going right to the pen. I'm going to make that call right now. Bring him in to save my behind. There he is, folks. Paul Morgan. Good morning to you, mate. How are you?
Oh, well, DV, it's been a morning for both of us, though. Like I lost half of my equipment, so I've had to come into the office to get it all happening. You've forgotten about the time going back an hour, so it's we're off to a good start.
Spring forward, fall back. Everything's fine over the last. It's been all week here. See, it's Thursday night here, so I've had no problem all week. Everything seems to be going great. I'm able to. It's at 5:45 when I'm walking in the morning. The sun's coming up. It's not pitch black. Only problem is I forgot when I was sitting in my office, kind of kicking it, I got an hour to go. Wait, it's actually 7 a.m. in the West. So we're going to dispense all that. We got it going. Glad you're along. Hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. We've got pretty much no guests today, but there's a lot to dissect. And I think the biggest thing is we're going to connect some dots here on the show. Off the bat, we're going to go for the hot stove as well. Talk a little bit about Liam Hendriks' situation and just kind of close things out with some really fun stuff that's going on throughout the league. But really, the big thing is, in my question of the day too, I want to ask you guys this. Is Liam related? Who's going to sign Liam Hendriks? Who's going to sign him? Is he going to go back to Oakland, San Fran, Philly? What do you guys think? New York, Toronto? Who is going to sign Liam Hendriks? And we'll get to that to let you guys chime in on that. Also, questions and comments throughout the show. We'd love to hear from you guys wherever you're watching us. And also, of course, if you're watching us on replay, glad you did. So let's go from there. We're going to jump right in. I saw this, and I guess this is about 24 hours old now. So over here this morning, late in the day over there, there's two pieces of the puzzle. First off, the exciting news that Dylan Unsworth is going back to Perth. But wait. How is that possible? Isn't he going to play for Auckland? I think these two stories sort of intermingle here, partner, I believe. And before we go too far, I'm going to give you a little this is production value, folks, because my partner's got a little, I believe, breaking news for you, I believe. So I'm going to give you a little this. Here, feels very official.
It does.
It just feels official.
Well, does it? No, DV, so the word around town in regards to the Unsworth situation was that I believe Unsworth's management contacted the Tuatara of late and sort of had a conversation around what are the certainties, what are the guarantees that the Tuatara can give that Unsworth will play or not play. Obviously, Tuatara, and full credit to Auckland, where I believe they've sort of gone, look, it's still a little up in the air, so you can explore other options. Which obviously the management has done. That has landed him back in Perth, and so two big things to unpack there. One, you could basically give the big tick to Perth Heat playing this season, and secondly, you can put that big question mark on the Tuatara playing. And we know there's articles out there at the moment suggesting that D-Day is coming for the Tuatara. All their games have to be played in Australia. We've heard all the word out of Auckland around the financial losses that they're going to take on behalf. But so the Unsworth situation came about based on the fact that the management spoke to Tuatara. There's no guarantee that Tuatara can play. Therefore, his contract was allowed to be shopped around. And interesting stuff, DV.
It really is. I mean, there's I don't know how you feel about it, but as a fan, we have a lot of connections in the West, but I got to tell you, it was a bittersweet story because, yes, as a Heat fan, you're pretty fired up because you're getting the best pitcher of the league back. From a league standpoint, though, you got to be concerned because some great things have happened in Auckland. I am what they have done there on the island has been phenomenal. Growing the game, getting folks at the game, the energy they've had, all that being said, and the fact they may not play this year, yes, you should be excited as a Heat fan, but as a bigger picture, and I believe Talking Baseball Australia is a big picture show here, I am worried, and I'm worried for Auckland and for the Tuatara going forward. And I think it's a really a two-headed story here, but they are related. Yes, Unsworth's going to make Perth immediately on that opening night of a series the team to beat, but will Auckland have a chance to do what they've done and all the great things Steve Mintz has done on the field?
Well, that's a big question, DV. And, I know there's an article in, is it the stuff.co.nz, the website there, where, the Tuatara are basically going, they're trying to find a way to play because there's ramifications if they don't play. Of course, all licensing agreements suggest that you need to play the game. So, and I guess if there's a pathway for them to play and they're unable to fulfill their licensing commitment, that then DV sort of suggests, well, what happens to that license? Is it in flux? Is it going back out onto the open market? Could it be moved to somewhere else in Australia? Could it be moved to somewhere else in New Zealand? I mean, you'd hate to see it happen. You'd absolutely hate to see it happen. But look, I think it's hard for the Tuatara in so many ways to play this season because you are asking them to take an enormous financial loss. And, in that article as well, it suggests, which is correct and which has been sort of, I guess, the unsticking point of the ABL so far is there is no broadcast deal. So Tuatara can't go play in Brisbane and sort of like teams in New Zealand have, the Wellington Phoenix in soccer, the New Zealand Warriors in the National Rugby League, who have been able to come over because they're backed with that broadcast deal. There is no money in the broadcast deal. So, the Tuatara are going to either literally lose their shirts or, is it... But from everything I'm hearing, there's still a plan for the two seasons. The two conferences. So we'll have to wait and see. But you would think, DV, it's unlikely that they play. But
well, a quote there on the screen, and I'm going to get to a couple of little items here. We reached out to the Tuatara. I'm going to get to that in a moment. This is from the story that was in the New Zealand paper yesterday, and there's the quote you see on the screen. I'll read it to you. Basically what it says is, what does it mean for the ABL or for us, question mark, would we be letting down other teams? Would they say they don't want the Tuatara in the ABL? And that's from Reagan Wood. He's their CEO. And let me first say this, and I think I speak for Paul Morgan. I speak for the league. I hope I speak for most of the fans throughout the league that I hope that this is not with a lack of a better term, a witch hunt where the Tuatara are not playing, they're not welcome back. This is a strange year. And this same situation happened in Kansas City in the American Association. I can tell you this because I was supposed to be broadcasting games for the T-Bones last summer. We didn't play. The league played without us, but the T-Bones supported the league supported the T-Bones, and we still are going to be we're still part of the family. The Tuatara, that fear, I hope, is not real because I can tell you right now, from our standpoint, from what you and I believe in this league going forward, it would stink to have the Tuatara in the league this year, but by no means would they not be welcome down the road, assuming all things are worked out financially.
No, and that's it. I mean, and whether the picture for the Tuatara is financially they can't keep going if they don't play this year or not, I don't know, but that's something that we need to know. But look, I think one of the snafus that they really have at the moment more than anything is you could probably, because, Australia had, I think in total, in the entire country, I think we had 6 coronavirus cases through the entire country, 6 cases in the entire country, which is phenomenal. New Zealand obviously have 0. So you've got these two little safe hubs at the moment. But the interesting part, DV, is the American passport situation. So if players are going into New Zealand, they're quarantined. So if you're going from Los Angeles to Auckland, you're quarantining for 14 days into New Zealand. But then if you've got a New Zealand passport, no dramas, you're going over to play for Sydney, not a problem, you're in. If you've got an American passport, that's where the problem comes in, because then you got to go to Sydney and quarantine for 14 days in Australia. That's the unsticking point. New Zealand, like, do the Tuatara look at some kind of way of, majority of their team, or they have not a B team, but do they have a team full of Australian and New Zealand players only? Maybe, but it makes it hard. But it's regardless the other way. Any team to go to Auckland makes it pretty difficult because, frankly, because you can't get back to Australia.
Yeah, and that goes on. I'm going to kind of give you just the bullet points quickly that we learned from the article. And again, first off, the headline was Unsworth going back to Perth. That is part of the story. But as we tweeted yesterday, there's so much more to it. And so here at Talking Baseball Australia, we're going to kind of dissect it quickly. Stewart says, we'll stay with the Tuatara. Too much has been invested from the ABL's perspective. They've seen as the darlings regards broadcast deals, yes. We all understand COVID and what that means. Should they miss the season, we can respect the whys. And I agree. Stuart, you're right on. Because, again, that's exactly what happened to Kansas City, to Cleburne, to, I'm trying to think, Lincoln, to Gary South Shore. I mean, those are teams that did not play the association, and we're all welcome back. We're not. So I sympathize with the way they feel, but I'm telling you that is not a feeling I've heard throughout the ABL. I don't believe. And if that's a thing that's going on that we haven't heard about, that needs to stop. If that's a feeling that has to stop, because too much good things have happened there on the island for our great game and for the league. But one more couple things too. The TV deal appears to be still a go either way. Now, I reached out to Reagan Wood, and he was going to try to come on the show with us. And let me tell you why he couldn't come on the show. And this is why you should feel pretty good if you're a New Zealand fan, Tuatara fan. And I don't think. I mean, he was actually on the phones and doing some conference calling with TV folks right now. So that obviously is a big thing. One of the reasons he couldn't. And I told him, hey, I understand. We'd love to get you on for a quick chat. He'll come on down the road. And he was trying and working his tail off. I can tell you that because we were going back and forth with a nice email exchange. And one of the reasons why he did it is because he's trying to work out those TV particulars. And it sounds like, partner, that is what they're hoping, that Sky Sports can do both New Zealand games and the Australian games both. And that could be the saving grace, perhaps.
Well, yeah, 100%. And we haven't heard any word from the New Zealand Breakers, well, not that I know of, the basketball team, what their plans are, whether they're going to play in New Zealand or they're going to play in Australia as well. So, yeah, like the Sky, they've got such a great TV deal as well. The Sky Sports deal's a brilliant deal and really it's the first major deal any ABL club has ever got. I mean, outside of Geelong Korea's deal, but and it's a huge. The Tuatara have to be part of the ABL long term. Now, can they play in Australia potentially, and Sky Sports takes all their games? Like possibly the time zone thing might be a challenge, but may or may not be. The 7 innings in Australia may or may not be a challenge, but you just got to make it work. And however it works and why it works. But this is not the only snafu on the radar at the moment. Of course, there's another glaringly, if you're out in the West, there's another snafu. But there's that beautiful ballpark at North Harbour, DV, with the teal monster in the shot there. And boy, it would have been nice to get over to Auckland this year, DV, to watch a game.
Well, I just rolled. This is last year's video from Sky Sports, and I think that's something we got to consider, that this may be the saving grace for the Tuatara, is again that being able to get the games back in New Zealand from Australia will be a plus. Yep. And I think you're right on there. The one more thing too is that you mentioned the effect on imports, that this may be a situation where imports have to go directly there as opposed to going to New Zealand and then there, because then they're looking at double quarantine. That's not going to work. So that maybe, and that's something that the article talks about, that they talk about possibly doing that. And here's the final quote here as well. And let me give you this too. This quote, it says, Sport New Zealand has been incredibly supportive of all sports, and they're saying they'll support us. This is back to Regular Wood again.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure it's the right decision for us and them, rather than get some money and we go away. We have to do a budget and have discussions. Discuss a lot with our stakeholders. So there's a lot of things at stake for those folks. It's not just money and not just throwing money at it. It's also making this thing work. And COVID is, and I think Stuart just said it a moment ago, COVID is it's a pain in the ass for all.
Yeah.
But any more thoughts on all of this? I mean, I think what it tells us that we expect, what we expect is that next week, November 12th is the drop down deadline date, that we'll hear something and we'll be able to do something for it on Friday. I think what we're learning is that apparently the season's going to go forward, but who all's there is the question mark. Is that we're both agreement that it may not be 8, maybe 6 or 7.
It may be 6. I don't think anyone really. I mean, I don't think anyone that I've spoken to knows the status of Geelong Korea. The only. I know Warwick Sawpole's back in Perth. That's all I know. He's quarantining in a hotel in the city at the moment. But that's the only link to Korea that I've got. But look, I would expect, from what I've heard from various stakeholders, is the plan is exactly the way that the plan was laid out not that long ago. Outside of obviously the bubble, the plan still is the I don't know. Was it called the Australian Conference?
I believe so. Yes, I believe so.
The International Conference and the Australian Conference. Still planning to go ahead. I mean, as I said just before rolling the video, the other the couple of snafus that still sitting around is Perth are fine with Canberra. Of course, the WA opening their borders to everywhere, quarantine free outside of Victoria and New South Wales. So they're fine for Canberra to come in, no dramas, that first series. The second series, that Perth host, I think they host the Aces, and that starts to get a bit tricky because there's possible quarantine. However, Melbourne, phenomenal job. I think they've either gone a week. They've gone one whole week in a row with 0 new cases, which is just such a phenomenal job from a place that was, a wildfire a little while ago. They've done such a great job in Melbourne. So look, hopefully that won't be an issue either. But I don't know. To me, the gut tells me that you'll end up having the 6 Australian teams play similar to the way it was a few years ago. The only issue I sort of thought about this morning was, do they have enough time to play each other? That's currently they stand with the scheduling was 3 home schedules. Does that stay? I mean, I don't think they have enough time to play each other. They have the 5 home series, but that's so. I guess something might have to change there. But maybe it's 2-3 team conferences and you play 1 interleague game. That's about all I could think of.
Yeah, that could be. I do know that the Cam Vale and the ABL front office, I believe they were on schedule. This was back 2 months ago. They'd run through 28 or 29 different fixtures possibilities going forward. What are the factors? Let me give you guys these factors out there. And when New Zealand's talking about other factors about play, this applies. You name the club on the fence. I don't care who it is. I'm sure ownership, management is thinking, do we play or not play? That's probably gone through everybody's desk. Everyone's had these conversations in the boardroom. They've all discussed about what are these things besides money? What are things that affect this? Well, I'm going to give you momentum is A. In Auckland's case, momentum has been huge as they've really taken off momentum-wise. It may or may not be a big deal in certain places. Obviously, in Victoria, they've had such great stuff with the Aces the last really 2 years. That momentum has to keep going. So that's a factor. So if you've got momentum going forward, you want to play. Fans, that also part of momentum. How your fans are they engaged? What your membership situation is? How were your membership sales last off season? Do you have a lot of folks itching ready to go watch baseball? That's an effect. Now, granted, it is financial, but that's also because you got to think about these terms. If we don't play, how much we got to issue in refunds. We went through all this in Kansas City. I can tell you what a pain in the backside that can be when you make that call. Other factors, international fans. I think Auckland especially, and to a certain degree Melbourne, I think those two franchises have been very good at international exposure, but especially with Geelong Korea and Auckland, those two franchises with international television and international exposure where fans are really starting to really buy into the whole Australian Baseball League thing with with Melbourne and really Sydney to this year with their off-season splashes. Those things that have been going on in the off-season are creating energy with fans internationally, especially in North America. That's a very big thing too, because that's going to help increase merchandise. Again, it comes back to some money, but these are all factors thrown in there. The TV thing's also a big thing. What do they do if they can come over and broadcast 7 innings ball games in Australia as opposed to the 9 innings, which was the plan? That was the plan. Remember, the Australian conference was 9 innings. The international was 7 because of TV. Can they bring Auckland over and do 7 innings? That was also the import fact. There's a factor there. What do major league organizations want to do? They want to say, well, it sounds a little up in the air. Are you going to play? Are you not going to play? I may not send my top-rated prospect after all. I may just pull the plug on that. Those are also expenses too that come in with the Australian side with quarantine and airfare. But what do the big league clubs do? What do import players do? Guys that are wanting to come over, do they think, well, you know what? I may just avoid the whole thing altogether. So those are all factors by choosing not to play or to play that go into that. So I just throw those things out there as ideas. Those are all sort of what happened in the American Association, and they were all effects going forward. So anyway, what about the imports? Will they play? Is Charles's question. Partner, you want to take a stab at that?
Well, I think most of the imports will play. From what I understand, and we've started to see a little bit of this trickle down on social media. I think we saw it on the Melbourne Aces the other day, where visas tick, exemptions tick. We saw that on the Sydney Blue Sox with Manny Ramirez. He's all been approved. From my understanding, I believe it was last week, all the teams had to have their import lists together. That group of names as a collective got submitted to the government for visa approval, of exemption, or whatever you want to call it, DV. And you've got to get your name on that list as well, DV. Just better get your name on the exemption list. As far as I've heard, all the import players will be playing. It's just a matter of the New Zealand is the only slight issue, just based off the fact of the quarantining with the US passports. But from what I've heard, nothing to suggest the imports aren't playing.
Let me also add to this as well. You've seen the imports that have been signed. We're going to talk about that in a moment. One a guy that I don't know very well, but I know his brother. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. I do know that for the most part, they've all signed, sealed, and delivered. I can't tell you what I want to tell you, but Paul and I know enough that we can tell you and confirm that out west, things look very good in that direction with imports and with more than one import. So from what we're hearing, and I can tell you for a fact, and I can tell you for a fact that I know one that for sure is going over. I know a broadcaster for another team that's already got his thing sorted, and I know there's a long list of players on at least the Heat and the Aces for sure, and Brisbane and Sydney that have all been confirmed and all been put in that list to be cleared to come over. So imports look to be very solid with all those clubs. If you see it reported, it's probably a pretty good deal. So we can't tell you the purse stuff yet, but dang it, I know what's in that wrapper. Dang it, I know what's in that wrapper.
You know what's under the tree. Yeah, look, I think the only potential complete snafu in all of it is we know that the airline costs are through the roof from the US to Australia. Cross-country airfares are through the roof as well. I mean, potentially, maybe, I don't know, maybe one or two drop off along the way.
Yes.
And as you said, DV, there's still the outside chance that the Mets or the Rays or the whoever's who have become affiliated might say, you know what. But saying that, I don't know what, then you just got to look at the upside and go, well, you can literally live in a virtual coronavirus-free world down here now and get your players some reps and whatnot. So you would probably, if you're a betting man, you may well say that the level of affiliated imports should, in theory, be higher than they're not, because you've got a chance to give your best guys a little run.
Yeah, Manny on a private jet. Private jet, Matt. Very good. The show is Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. He on the good-looking fella, which is he's in Australia. That's Paul Morgan right there. My name's Dan Vaughn. We're glad you guys are along here on a Friday morning. Let's shift now. I think we've given enough of that Unsworth thing. We'll go to the hot stove in a moment, but I want to jump on it. And I dug this up from the archives. I've been using the same 4, 5, 6 Liam Hendriks photos. I want to pull this one up. Do you remember this one? This is Liam circa 2007 playing for some Claxton Shield baseball.
Shield Heat, yeah.
How about that look? I mean, I love that kid. Look at that. I
love that kid. Yeah.
I love that kid.
It's great.
That's a good looking. Isn't that Heat Flash's old kid? It looks like.
Yeah, I like that. The red. Well, I think that's just the old muscle shirt with the red undershirt underneath as well.
That's a good look. That's a good look. Probably a little warm, but I had to throw that out.
That would have been. Yeah, that would have been. That's that old school. That the jersey weighs about 4 kilos before you put anything on. But
they're playing on field turf there. It looks like. I guess that's in Victoria, but he's wearing white pants. But that looks like that's probably in Victoria there at the ballpark in Melbourne. But because I think it's only field turf / outfield grass / infield field turf. But anyway, Liam Hendriks there. No qualifying offer from the Athletics, so that 18.9 did not come his way. He's now a free agent. Teams of interest: Phillies, Giants, Yankees, Blue Jays, A's, and any team that has a hefty wallet. And that would probably, I guess you could throw the Dodgers in the mix, and some fringe teams, maybe the Braves, teams like that. First off, are you surprised the Athletics didn't offer the 18? I don't think so.
No, I mean they've got a history of. Is cheap the right word, DV? I don't know.
Frugal. They're frugal. Yeah. They're very frugal with their bucks, I guess, if you will. Yeah, they're very frugal.
Yeah. Look, I think. Look, I'm relatively sure. Like to get the money he deserves. Let's not beat around the bush. I don't think that he's going to be at Oakland next year, because I just don't believe. From what I've heard around the decision-making process, which is not a lot outside of the fact that I believe he has a home in. Well, no, he has a home in Arizona. Yes. I believe he's happy up there in Oakland. So I believe probably more likely you get looking at Arizona, San Diego, Dodgers, Angels, Giants, A's. You're more likely preference, I suppose, for Liam. I mean, the Giants would be a pretty easy sell.
Sure,
I mean, really, you'd probably stay living where you're currently living, I would have thought. But and just drive across the bridge. Look, I think he will. The Phillies have always got money, though, don't they, DV? And they're a chance. But I think he's at that age and at that time, and he deserves it. You'd probably just go for the most money you can find and. Something that's a good fit and half a chance to win a ring, I would have thought.
Yeah, and I think too, and I think what you got to throw out there, I'm gonna tell you, these are the cities where I saw articles written, either just a little blurb or something about their bullpen and the possibility his name coming up. Philadelphia, San Francisco, New York, both teams in New York, Toronto, Oakland, a little bit in Seattle, had a real big feature in the Seattle Times about the possibility of the Mariners making that run as well. Here's the deal for him. He's in a great position. I can't think of it because he's got a choice. Now, granted, it's a tough choice. You're going to get a 1-year deal somewhere, probably around $11 to $13 million. Somewhere in there, you figure in that area at worst case scenario. You might get a 1-year deal from the right club, 15 to 16, somewhere in there. But you're going to get that's a large swath there, 11 million to about 16, 17 million. A multi-year deal, you're looking at probably a starting number around 12. A 4-year deal, maybe 13 and a half. Now, if there was no COVID situation, he was probably going to start at $16, $17 million a year. So factor COVID in there. Now, here's the deal. Either way, do you cash your 1-year check in for 12, 13 million, and do you take your chances a year from now where you get a multi-year deal, maybe excess $17, $18 million, or Do you take? I don't know what that is. What is going on here? I don't know why I'm getting jams here. Is that you?
Jams.
I'm getting music in my ears. I'm not sure what it is, but what is that? I'm getting music in my ear. I don't know where it came from, but
No, I can't. I can't hear it.
I suddenly heard some song. It's like I heard this random happy music. It was nothing I had. Guys, I guess you guys didn't hear that. Anyway,
I am at a radio station, but I can't
well,
hear it.
it was on my end. It was something on my end. Anyway, what I was saying is, okay, surely you command a long-term deal after 21 in a normal market. If everything gets back to normal, and of course labor negotiations go forward, everything's back to normal. Let's say post-COVID, you think $16 million sounds about right per year, 3 or 4 year deal probably. Or do you go ahead and take the 13.5 now, which is probably what you're going to get for a 3 or 4 year deal now? That's a tough call, but it's a pleasant problem to have. It's lots of millions, but is it apples to oranges here?
Well, you're spot on, and I think like all the cities you mentioned, they've all got. I mean, the Yankees, as we talked about last week. I mean, is it time for them to say thanks for playing Aroldis Chapman? Whereas maybe he goes in there. Toronto. There's a real strong chance that he goes back to Toronto just based off the fact that their closer Ken Giles is not playing, and he's opted out. So word on the street is they're all in on Trevor Bauer as well. If you read it, so maybe they're trying to go, well, let's use these young stars and maybe do a 2 year deal before all the young guys get they start taking money elsewhere. But he's as you say, DV, he's in a real good position right now. But it'd be tough to negotiate a deal right now. I mean, because the other thing is you'd imagine the owners start for a little too.
Well, but you also know too, inevitably, and this really comes from more the I'll use this more of a Yankees thing, but I use them as an example. Someone's gonna overpay the market situation. Somebody's gonna, the way COVID is, just in general. I shouldn't say the way COVID is. But someone will step up, either offer him more than the going rate for 1 year, or offer him a slightly bit more than the going rate to make it a multi-year deal and guarantee that money. So, I mean, you're guaranteed $13.5, $14 million. If somebody comes in and says $15 million for 4 years, 3 years, he takes it. I think somebody comes along and says $16 million for 1 year, I think he takes that. We don't know for sure, but someone's going to throw that extra little bit in there because bullpen pieces are hard to come by, especially proven ones you can lock in and know you're going to have a guy that's going to be able to work 8th and 9th inning for you should it happen, and whose slider is working the way it is and his fastball is moving like it is. I mean, you don't see a lot of that right now. So that's my take, but boy, it's a good position for it to be in, isn't it, mate?
Let me put the old the DV crystal ball and gaze into it and tell me next year what uniform does Liam Hendriks have on?
I have a feeling it'll be Philadelphia. I just think Philly is they're that Eastern Seaboard. They're always going to be second fiddle to both the Yankees and the Red Sox in that part of the country, and the Mets to a certain degree. Philly's a very proud sports city, a very, very proud baseball city. Long history there. I think the Phillies will make that move and be a long-term deal. And my dark horse is Seattle. I think Seattle also can fix, because they have a lot of they have some young guys that could be around him, and he would kind of be that leader of those young guys. I think those are the two. I would say it's Philly and then Seattle and then anybody else. But that's my gut. And watch it wind up being somebody crazy like Baltimore. I mean, you never know. But that's my gut.
Boy, but well, Dave, I was going to get your takes on a couple of other Major League Baseball issues off the cuff as well. Manager side of it, AJ Hinch going to the Detroit Tigers. I mean, that's interesting. That's a real interesting one. The Chicago White Sox is another real interesting one.
I was floored by that. I think a lot of folks were, that Tony La Russa is going to be going back to Chicago after all these years. I mean, that was a little bit of a shocker, especially when Renteria was one of the finalists for Manager of the Year of the AL. I mean, how often? When's the last time a manager was a finalist for manager of the year and is not
Yeah.
still doesn't have a job. And when was the last time
Yeah.
that happened? I mean, that to me was the most bizarre part of the story, and the fact that there's a segment of baseball folks who think old school is the best. There's a segment of baseball folks who think we should go forward with the analytics world and that kind of deal. I kind of think the White Sox should have gone forward in a more modern direction.
Yeah.
That's just my take. And they've caught a lot of heat for it. But then again, it's so hard to make that call when you're trying to turn your franchise around. What do? Do you go the safe route? And that's just in sport in general. And that'd be the NBA, AFL, NFL, you name it. It's so much easier to hire a name that you know has done it before as opposed to risk. Well, do I hire this guy that's been a third base coach? It's a young guy that's analytics guy. Do I hire that guy? And it's a hard call to make. But I was shocked by that, mate. Really shocked. The Hinch thing I'm not shocked about. He'd be back at some point. I'm not shocked by that.
No, and the LaRusso thing, I think what was interesting was just so many people saying, where's the incentive for, young coaches coming into the game, people sticking around clubs for a fair period of time. They're sticking around these clubs and then all of a sudden it's just not happening for them. So one moment after the other, they're just, like they're there, and then all of a sudden they're wheeling out this old dude, and this old guy's just getting the job. And as you said, they had the manager of the year, for crying out loud. And it's just, that poor guy, it's just wheels off.
I mean, how do you, if you're the social media guy with the White Sox, and you've got to put that tweet out and Facebook post out and Instagram post out, congratulations, manager of the year nominee, but then yet, oh, by the way, he's not our manager anymore. And the next post 4 or 5 minutes later is, oh, well, here's our new manager. Yay, thumbs up. How do you juggle that? How do you think your fans are idiots? Do you think fans just don't get it?
And boy, not to add fuel to the fire, but in the political, we know that the US is basically, figuratively on fire at the moment, and then you've got a large group of people that all of a sudden probably the most tone deaf thing you could do in 2020 is probably wheel out an old white guy as your manager in the current political climate. That is just. Again, that is just throwing a match on the gasoline. Of
course, that's coming from a political system that gave you 2 old 7-year-old white guys. So it's like they craziness. But again, I don't dislike Tony La Russa at all. I'm not saying that. No. I think his track record speaks for itself. But in this day and age, if you're the White Sox and you're trying to make hay, remember the White Sox are in a unique situation. Across town, they've got a brand in the Cubs that no matter what they do. And win, lose, or draw, the Cubs are always the bigger draw in that city. They're always the name that people care about. You need to think outside the box. I'm going to throw this out there to you. Maybe it was a chance to interview a female managerial candidate. If I'm the White Sox, I do something that's not been done. I don't just do the old retread thing because I need to be ahead of the game. I need to try to be out in front of things. And it could be any group of people. That's what I would do.
Managers still, do you think Cora stays on or no?
Let's see.
Do you think not stays on? Did you think Alex Cora, is he the next one to get the manager? We didn't say Toronto food, but we should happy birthday.
Didn't say Twitter the player with birthday in the AM, and then yes, I did. Yes, and that's the thing about social media. It's hard because I got to tell you, a couple times I've had to make sure that I've been in that situation where I had some of my interns or my staff doing a game story, or not a game story, but doing a feature story and a video on a player, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing this guy may be traded or released. Yeah, that's a tough call. You got to, and you can't just go to the manager and say, "Oh, by the way, can I do a story on this guy because he's going to be around for a while?" It's you got to kind of know. That's oftentimes why I have my staff run it by me. Hey, should we do this? And I usually I try to push them the right direction, but that's a problem. And it's a problem that happens a lot in the big leagues. And hey, you see jerseys in the gift shop with a guy that was there 1 minute and gone the next. If you're the marketing person or the souvenir person, just ordered 10,000 jerseys of a guy who just got traded. You're like, well, I can't download these or anywhere. I mean, what am I going to do with them? I mean, what do you do? I mean, that is the problem, Stuart. And I've been there. That's part of what we do with this instant media.
I've always said that, just on that, I would love one day, like someone is going for a bushwalk or something, and they discover this canyon somewhere where all the old sports jerseys, but more so when this year they would have got ready the Rays World Series champions T-shirts as well as the Dodgers. I just love, in my mind, there's somewhere that exists that all these old shirts that never panned out and hats that never panned out and jerseys that never panned out just get thrown in a big canyon.
Yeah, and once in a while you'll see a place where you'll see a photo of somebody wearing a whoever team lost World Series champions or NBA champions. You'll see it now and then. Not a lot, but those, I believe they do. I think they donate those to third world countries a lot of times, but you'll see a picture of some folks, and folks overseas wearing a Rays World Series shirt in a couple of years.
You need to go get yourself that 2011 Rangers World Series championship shirt somewhere.
There you go. They're out there, folks. I want one. Some nicknames still not signed for ABL this season. Thoughts? Go ahead, partner.
No, I was just going to say, I actually think a lot of people are signed. It's just the drip feed of information. I mean, I both know probably Perth's squad is well and truly done and dusted, as our other squads done and dusted. It's just the drip feed
I like
information.
It, Matt. I like the fact that teams are announcing signings, but let's just face the facts here. Tim Kennelly was going to play for the Heat regardless if they announced. I mean, that was not. I mean, yes, it was a news we announced last week. It's great to have him back, and we're trying, in the spirit of things, the ABL, trying to announce these player signings too. But I mean, Jess Williams was going to be back. I mean, yeah, he signed, but it's not like they had to go out and dig up and recruit this guy. I mean, the real news is the imports, and when the guy crosses state lines, when a guy goes from Victoria to Canberra, whatever. When a guy goes from the West to Victoria, those are the real stories. But I think really, for the most part, a lot of names are just, okay, this guy will announce this guy. A lot of these guys have already committed, and you're seeing it kind of trickle in. And I can tell you right now, there's a bushel of names and new names that are coming import-wise. They'll be heading to the West. But I think there's a little catch-up to do. But, I don't think there's really anything really big. Also, old white guy Wayne Bennett in Queensland seems to work. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to feel like, that we open a can of worms by mentioning the old white guy line, but very good. Very, very good. Touche. Again, we're talking about ABL hot stove news. We'll transition that here on Baseball's Best Mate. Talking Baseball Australia Live. Dan Vaughn and Paul Morgan with you on a Friday morning. I mentioned that the Aces were at it again earlier. I think sort of mentioned this. Jake Romanski is back. He was there 2 years ago and is back this year. Was with the Red Sox system for a number of years. I believe he got as high as AAA, went to San Diego State. But a good, versatile, can catch, play first, play the corner, and the outfield as well. He's back. Going to be a utility guy, but a good utility bat as well. 29-year-old, hit .283 with 3 homers and 13 driven in, 18-19. Climbed the Red Sox ladder. I know him, but don't know him. I know his brother, Josh, was a former pitcher turned offensive star in the American Association, and Josh went on to play Industrial League in Japan as well. His brother was basically on the cusp of making the big leagues with the White Sox as a pitcher, and then wound up being a offensive player in the American Association. But I do know his brother and his father. But Jake Romanski is back, and he was in a league. This is interesting to note too for you ABL fans. There wasn't a lot of baseball being played in North America, as we talked about, but there was a league playing in Sugar Land, Texas, outside of Houston. It's in the Sugar Land Skeeters ballpark, Constellation Field. They basically had guys who were either AAA guys, some former big leaguers, guys who didn't get signed to minor league deals, and some independent guys who went down there and played in an independent league, a short really shortened league that had Pete Caviglia, the former Ranger slugger and Orioles slugger. Both Roger Clemens and his son were managers in that league. And they had a lot of those connections, really top-notch AAA, AA talent that played down there at short league, the Constellation League. And Jake played down there this summer. So he's not coming in cold. He's coming in off a season, but basically a month and a half, 6 weeks of playing in that Constellation League. So there is that piece right there. We'll move along, partner. By the way, you can feel free, guys, to jump in any time. A guy that we've seen at time, and this is a case I think a little bit, Matt, what we're talking about. This is a great example. This is a guy in Matt Timms who I think when I looked at, if you'd have told me, let's say 6 weeks ago, I would have just, in my head, I already had Timms as down as part of things with Brisbane. I mean, it's one of those guys that we talk about, getting the band back together. Same thing. This is a guy I would have already sort of had in the mix, wouldn't you? I mean, isn't Timms a guy you'd figured had already been there, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's one of the guys.
Well, here he is. Matt Timms is back. Veteran reliever, 33 years old, seventh in the relaunched league in 115 regular season appearances as well. This is a guy that, again, getting the band back together again. And I'm going to give you guys a brand new segment here. This is something I've not done, but I want to do this. And it's in the rundown. I don't believe Paul is even aware of this, but this is something that I'm going to give you guys a strange little feature here, a little known fact that's it's our new Talking Baseball Australia little fact here. So let's roll that. Here we go. Look at the graphic. TBA Fast Fact. Wow, you didn't know that, right? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Sounds very game show oriented, doesn't it, mate? Very game show.
Wow,
oriented.
you can. What's the guy's name that does The Price is Right again? The Price is Right.
Well, did you know? Did you know, partner? And this is a one of those things that you may have not known, and I think a lot of folks may not know this. This comes from the Did You Know? Let's pull this down a little bit. Hold on. Okay, there we go. It's on. This is for the Did You Know department. This is our little fast fact. I want to throw one of these special. When I dig these little fast facts up, they're fun. And let me give you a little photo to go along with this, because this one's actually a little photo. Did you know that in 2008, many, many, many moons ago, that Mr. Timms was a Atlanta Braves farmhand? And did you know his teammate, his battery mate in the Danville Braves was none other than this gentleman right there in the middle of your picture there, number 23, I believe he's wearing.
Right.
That'd be a Matt Kennelly sighting, right? Yeah, and that MK site. Did you know that
Atlanta Braves, of course.
Yes, the Danville Braves of 2008 in the Appalachian League, which, by the way, no longer exist anymore going forward. The Appy League's gone, but the Appy League was where the Braves had a club in Danville. Well, Timms it was an all-Australian battery in 2008 for the Appalachian League Danville Braves. Timms and Matt Kennelly. How about that? Did you know that?
I did not know that. So there you go.
There you go. So there you go.
They need to get that mind-blowing emoji now. So
yeah. Well, I can probably see the things I can do when I'm bored.
That would actually be, I think what would be fun, and if anyone had a lot of time on their hands, it would be fun to go back historically and look at players from, be it Australian players or be it ABL players, who have played against each other in other leagues or competitions. That would be. I don't know who's got that much time on their hands, but it would be fun to do.
Oh, but some of us are substitute teaching now and then. We've got plenty of time when the 10th graders have to have a mass break. Have to take a mass break because they're because they have to take a mass break. So there you go, folks. There he goes. That is your Talking Baseball Australia Fast Fact. Did you know? Let's go take a little music away with it. There we go. A little traveling music for you there. All right, there we go. All right. Okay, there we go. That is the fast fact right there in little production value. Let's move along. Canberra getting a guy back who I'm actually going to pull this up because this is actually a great photo as well. We talk about all the time about guys playing in the colleges, the college level. I'm a big fan of this guy, Cam Warner, who's back with Canberra. And I'm going to pull up this one. This is a shot of him that you may not have ever seen. He's playing for the TCU Horned Frogs in the Big 12, a very fine baseball program. This is a young man who went the Division I route, coming from Australia, played Division I baseball, and then was signed, or actually not signed, but drafted after playing at TCU. Remember, you can go the college route as an Australian and be drafted. He's one of those handful of guys. Robbie Glendenning is one of them as well, who was a signee via the draft after college. But Warner back, fourth Australian season. Last year, the 26-year-old, 43 hits for the Cavs, second only to Zach Wilson, hit 328 with 5 homers, 12 RBIs last year. Love this guy. Solid middle infielder, solid bat. I mean, he's we love Robbie Glendenning and what he offers. Warner does the same type thing for Canberra.
100%. And he's a staple of Canberra. He's one of these guys that, and again, he probably falls into the category of highly likely to sign, but getting drip-fed information on social media. And he probably goes into that category. So.
Right. And the next guy, too, I think that, and again, this is very much I thought about that quite a bit, a little bit to a degree, that this is kind of, that's what's going on as I'm trying to find my next one here, the next Cav. But that's really what's going on. I mean, you've got they're taking their time with guys. And this guy right here, Reese Nitt, is brought back reliever for Canberra's second ABL season. Spent some time with the Bandits, I believe, right? A couple of years ago.
Yes.
Was where I'm in, back. And again, this is one of those guys that I would have said would be playing somewhere. And again, we're starting to see those as we're talking about it, Matt was asking earlier, we're seeing those names start to get filled in there.
They're quite on the quiet. They're putting together a nice little team, Canberra, as well.
Yeah, we'll break that down a little bit next week. And Romansky at 288 in a league where batting average was 226. Yes, that's a very good point there too. But yeah, this is a guy that can hit. I can tell you that right now. The kid can hit. Young man can hit. And again, he's valuable because what he also gives you, we're going back to Romansky again, because he can play multiple positions, that creates such flexibility in your lineup card where you're not pigeonholed a guy in one spot. You can do some things and be creative. But yes, good to see Chris out there as well. Where were you, partner? I guess I'm actually the hot stove.
The wrap up.
That's the hot stove.
Turn the stove off, Dave.
Yeah, turn the stove off. I do want to get to this point, a little scatter shooting as we close things out here on Baseball's Best Mate, Talking Baseball Australia Live. We love marketing. We love great things happening. What I love to see are things happening in the league right now. For example, these are just little things I saw this week, and I think you saw them too. For example, and there's a great article, and we'll have to talk to Adam Dobb about this down the road. But Sydney, for example, has got a leadership group together. There's a great podcast out now. You can read and hear more about that on the Sydney Blue Sox website. But a leadership, and they're also pushing their members, which you're seeing that. That's great to see. A membership thing. When you're seeing things like membership groups and members pushing, you feel pretty good if you're in New South Wales. That's good to see. Any thoughts on a leadership council there? I think it's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, I think, you've always had, just more from a Perth standpoint, I guess, just because we know it more closely. You've always had that, Tim Kennelly's and over the years there was that Tim Kennelly, Luke Hughes, Matt Kennelly, like Andy Kyle. These guys were all sort of part of it. So look, and they're three names: Guy, Eunice, Howe, three synonymous names to the Blue Sox baseball, and should be part of the leadership group. And look, I think it's great to do things like these leadership groups and announce who they are, because as guys come in, because typically, I mean, there's most teams, at least 50%, if not more, of their roster turns over with new faces year in, year out. So to have these guys sort of come in and say, hey, this is the Sydney Blue Sox, this is what we do, this is what we stand for, this is what we represent, then great. But
now, how many times have we heard? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you don't really, you hear obviously Jeter, the captain, and the captain, but you don't really hear the term captain that often in baseball either. But
yeah, it's not a huge net thing unless you're a Yankee. But I love the fact, and this is something we've talked about, the culture in the West. How many times have we, back when Luke was playing, Luke Hughes and Alan D. San Miguel were at the Heat, we talked about how these imports kind of had to pass muster, and they changed every year, but they bought into the culture. They became Heat family members. I think of guys who played with the Heat. You still see Joey Wong retweet Heat things all the time, and he hadn't been there for a couple of years. It's like once a Heater, always a Heater, and that cultural thing. I think Sydney's trying to do the same thing. I know Melbourne's doing the same thing, but with a leadership group like that, that creates really something amongst the fans and some identity. I love it as well, partner, and I think it's really good stuff. Jumping to Melbourne too, this is something I love to shout these things out. They're putting out things, a sponsorship announcement. I believe more teams should do this. Canberra did it. Brisbane's done it this year. I believe when you go out and get a new partner, in this case, it's the Cyclone Company. When you get a new partner, I don't care if it's what the partner is. You need to be out there saying, hey, this is our new partner, fans. Be a part of them. They're a part of us. I love to see these things, and just seeing that is kind of cool. I know you believe in these kind of announcements. We need to see more of this from all teams, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing is, I mean, if partners don't get, if I don't care. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, outfield fences look cool, but I mean, I don't know how much action they get people to take. So without Melbourne, announcing Cyclone, and I can't remember what Cyclone. I'll have to Google it on the fly.
Yeah, well,
like
I read it today. It was, it sounded like a real good partnership. And I again, I just want to say, hey, thumbs up for doing that. I think those are great announcements, because if I'm a company, I want, and I'm going to sign a partnership deal, I want to get my money's worth. You're getting your money's worth and things like that. That's good to see.
Rural Hardware and Grain. That's right.
Yes, that's it.
They're a grain company.
Yes,
so
yes.
Sorry, hang on, wait. So we got to give Cyclone their due respects. Garden tools.
Yes.
Garden tools and screening as well. So if you're out in the garden, go and see the good people at Cyclone. If you're in Melbourne, down in Doncaster Road, Doncaster.
By the way,
Cyclone.
Yeah, Talking Baseball Australia is also looking for support. Yeah. Cyclone. We'll have you do. The Cyclone Talking Baseball Australia radio network. We're on the air. How about that?
And if we could fly to Melbourne, off we'd go down to Doncaster Road in Doncaster and do a show live from Cyclone.
Matt says no Trent. Why put that up? Why put this up? No Trent. I assume he's saying. I assume that Olchen, I believe. I don't know. I've not heard his name mentioned.
I don't know. He didn't play last year. I thought
he didn't play last year either. I'll have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure he's on my retired list. I believe, but I don't know for sure. Going to see Brian out there as well. This also being put up on the screen as well. You're seeing visas granted. This is more the membership thing. Visas granted, travel exemptions approved. Aces are going forward and saying, hey, let's play ball. Come on, members, join us. I love that announcement too, so I'm going to give them credit as well. So good to see that for the Aces. Also, D'Antonio. Oh, my bad.
D'Antonio.
Didn't we talk about him early on in the offseason? I feel like we did.
He is back in Sydney playing, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't think he's part of the leadership group.
I believe so. Yes, he is. I believe so. I believe that is the case. Here we go. Here's one more. This is from the West. I love to see this, and you can maybe comment on this. This is something the Perth folks are doing. A December 5th announcement December 5th. Tickets on sale for an All-Star Series there at the ballpark in Thornley. Good to see this. Of course, they also have their jersey design initiative going as well. But any thoughts on this piece of news from the Perth that they're?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, that it's a bit of quite a celebrity softball game where you'll get a lot of a lot of just footy players, basketball players, cricketers, whatever, come out to the ballpark. I think they got a T-ball carnival out there as well, trying to get the T-ballers out there, and then it sort of culminates in a celebrity softball game, I think. So it's just an opportunity. Hats off to the Heat. It's an opportunity to get people to the ballpark for another weekend. I mean, obviously, the only 3 openings, you're trying to get as much exposure as possible, but.
And Canberra thanking their sponsors as well. I see that right there. There's a great post from Canberra saying, hey, thanks to us. Again, I'm going to give some free advice here. Okay, this is free. My advice is not from us together. This is my advice. I think you would echo this. This is the kind of thing teams have to be doing. You've got to service these sponsors. You've got to make them feel special. Was what I've noticed over the years, and I think you and I both agree with it. We had this conversation. Servicing clients is huge. Getting them back year after year. If you could somehow continue to get the sponsors to come back, grow these sponsorships, these partnerships, this league's going to also take off. That's also, besides grassroots and a TV deal, you're also going to take care of your sponsors at a local level and a national level. And when you see a sponsorship thing, hey, thanks for being a part of our team. I love this. This is the kind of thing that we've not seen over the years, and we're seeing more of it now. Thumbs up to Canberra for all these teams. I mean, Brisbane did it the last couple of weeks ago. Everybody's doing it, but we got to keep doing this. If you're not doing this, you better be doing it, right? There you go. There you go. As a great man once said. That pretty much that's our scatter shooting segment. I just kind of throw out some odds and ends that aren't related to maybe players in the field, except for the leadership council. But questions and comments. Last call for those. Paul and I were through another show. It looks like I'll give you guys a last call. While we're giving you guys a last call, partner, what are your thoughts as we close here? Your final knee-jerk thoughts, perhaps, and what we're looking forward to next. Next week's the 13th on a Friday. What will the 12th and 13th hold for us?
Well, it should hold clarity in terms of what the season holds. I mean, what I hope is that all, maybe it's, at least we have some direction of where we're going. But I think the biggest thing that I hope for is Auckland find a way to play, and so do Geelong, Korea, or some form of an international team, and that's all. That's all you can really hope for at this point in time, DV. But look, next week I think I would expect Perth tick, Melbourne tick, Sydney tick, and Canberra tick. I think you can safely bank those ones. Adelaide we haven't heard much of late, so you would assume they're still in, but. And then they've got Auckland question mark, I think, and Geelong Korea probably. I think Geelong Korea is probably the biggest question mark of all the franchises, just because, who knows there. But at the same time, DV, what do you think is going to be the biggest headline of next week?
I don't know about Geelong Korea's situation. I did throw this question out a couple of weeks ago. I think we had Cam Vale on. We talked about it a couple weeks ago about maybe the first time we had him on. Would Geelong Korea be a placeholder team with Australians? That doesn't seem to be a possibility. I think Geelong Korea probably is they may be victim of just the whole COVID situation. I worry about the New Zealand situation. It doesn't sound good, but boy, I'm having some good thoughts. I want all the teams to be in. I see Geelong Korea probably not being in 17s going forward. It looks like, and I'm with you, the Australian teams, at least the ones in the Australian Conference, Perth, Melbourne, for sure, and Sydney all seem to be all full speed ahead. Of course, Brisbane was in the International Conference, and I think Canberra's full speed ahead there as well. I think you're pretty safe, those Australian teams. And I'm with you. I think you very well could see an old pre-expansion ABL for one season. I think that's a real big reality, partner, a really big reality. But that's kind of what I think will happen.
Yeah. Oh, that could be. I still think the big headline of the week will be military forcefully remove Trump from White House, but as man refuses to go. But I think
I'll tell you this, and I'll try to put as much levity in this as some humor in this. It's a crazy time, and I had my mom on my. I do a show Monday, Wednesday, Friday on my personal Facebook page just to kind of, for fun, just to kind of have some fun. And I had my mom on. I asked my mom last night, she's 80, and I asked my mom, she was around for the Nixon-Kennedy election of 1960, which is heralded as the biggest turnout ever. It was also the first debate on TV. It was really a real polarizing election. And she said, this is a time that is unlike any that she's ever experienced. And this is going back, like I said, she goes back prior to 1960. She goes back to Eisenhower being president, for crying out loud. So, I mean, this is a woman that's seen a few things, and even my mom said it. So, who knows what'll happen? Stay tuned. What we do know is we'll be back next Friday. How about that?
We will be.
We'll be back next Friday. Partner, Always a pleasure.
And it'll only be, and the funny part, DV, is I think next Friday almost gets to the 4 week to the season opening mark.
Yes,
So,
you mean the full
wow.
month. Full month.
That's wild, though, isn't it? To think that in theory, baseball's going to be played here in Perth on December 18.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good bet that's going to happen. And now, granted, it may be a series and be off for 2 or 3 weeks till they get everybody up. But I think that they're going to be, and that's one more thing I will say. There needs to be some flexibility, and I think you're going to see that built into this thing. All bets are off because it's COVID, so you're going to have some moving parts. But I still think it looks like December 18th in the West, they'll start playing baseball, and accordingly, other cities as well that already got their schedules out. So I'm with you, partner. Crazy times, but yeah, we'll be a month away next week. How about that?
Wow, we look forward to it next week, DV. Appreciate you doing all your hard work.
I'll let you go, my friend, and letting go Paul Morgan there as he goes. He has to go to work now. I get to eat dinner. How about that? Big thanks to you guys for joining us here on the show. You stopped by, you're watching us on replay. Please share this. If you have an ABL fan or a friend or a mate out there, sorry, Mom. My mom chimes in. Makes like 100. Bear in mind, I'm 80 and still kicking. Yeah, still kicking butt. You are, Mom. Very much so. By the way, Mom has been known to enjoy her time in the West as well, and she enjoyed Adelaide as well. She had a really good time in Adelaide and Perth. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell the story one day. I won't do it today, but there is a story with Mom and my aunt flying with the team with the Perth Heat to Adelaide to face the then Adelaide Bite a couple of years ago. So Mom was on the team flight. Yeah, she traveled with the team. How about that? But anyway, big thanks to you guys. Again, if you're watching this on replay, thank you. A couple of things I want to give you guys business-wise. Website, almost there. It's almost there. We're waiting on, and I'll tell you what I'm waiting on. And Paul and I talked about this last week. We will be debuting a Heat podcast in the next week or two, just for the Heat fans. We'll have that on our website as well as this show. This show as well will have an audio version, which I'll pull the audio off this show and give you folks who like podcasts a chance to check out the podcast as well. That'll also be links on our website as well, and also on our Facebook page as all that's coming as well. But I want to give those to you and give those opportunities to you. Those are coming for you as we continue to work on our coverage going forward. And we're going to be, when we know more about what's going to happen for the season, we can also plan our coverage accordingly here at Talking Baseball Australia with baseball's best mate, always ready to give you baseball from an Australian point of view. So please share this. Tell people about us. We're always on, and we're ready to, and we try to tweet to both Paul and I, keep you guys informed as best we can. And again, the reason I believe that we're the best fans, because you're the best fans. We're the best because you're the best. The fans of the Australian Baseball League, you guys are passionate, you care, and you guys are just you don't get that anywhere else but with the ABL. So a big thanks to you guys. Thank you very much. So please share this and like us, and come back and see us. And again, follow us on social media. Thanks to my broadcast partner, Paul Morgan, and for you folks who joined us along the way. Also to the folks I reached out to several folks today, the folks at Perth, Steve and Lockie, as well as Cam Vale for always helping us out. And Reagan over in New Zealand also was busy on the internet today, emailing back and forth. Always thanks for you guys' input on all this. So again, thanks to my partner, and, of course, our best mates, you, the baseball fans of the Australian Baseball League. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. As I always say, let's be better tomorrow.